Deep within the shadows, Lord Mantis stalks its prey, ready to turn a wild boar into its next meal. With a sickening crunch, the predator shreds the beast, proving why it is a top-tier threat in this forest. Suddenly, the Knights of Heaven launch a coordinated ambush, catching the monster off guard with a searing fire blast. The elite squad stands triumphant over the fallen S-class beast, basking in the glory of their hard-won victory. Back in the city, fans cheer wildly while watching the broadcast, absolutely dumbfounded by Leah's incredible combat prowess. In a high-tech facility, the lead developer adjusts his glasses, noting that the game's core values have finally stabilized. He explains that this isn't just some trash-tier simulation, as the entire world is built upon actual reality. It all started 20 years ago when mysterious portals called jungles opened, flooding the world with magical creatures. Since these realms cannot physically interact with our world, the danger remains safely locked behind a digital interface. Eventually, Shinuang technology seized control of these dimensions, transforming the apocalypse into a massive game called Apocalypse Survival. Players dive into the portal, transforming into knights who must fight for their lives in this brutal world. Even with the threat of dragonfire, people find their ordinary lives trashed here and seek something different. Linton looks over his masterpiece, proud to be the mastermind behind this living work of art. Suddenly, a high-ranking executive named Lu Daong storms into the room, looking for someone to blame. He throws a stack of reports at Lin Tian, demanding to know why the mantis monster was nerfed. As a powerful warrior and corporate heir, Lu Daong isn't used to being ignored by the staff. Our boy Lin Tan just pushes up his glasses, leaving the executive dumbfounded by his cold, logical explanation. This response clearly hits a nerve as the executive's patience finally snaps in a moment of pure rage. He grabs the developer by the collar, reminding him that the company's profit always comes before his vision. Linton calmly brushes him off, insisting that his design parameters are final and won't be messed with. Lu narrows his eyes, his patience wearing thin as he prepares to drop the hammer on the staff. He barks orders at the trembling workers, declaring that nobody leaves until the game meets his greedy standards. The surrounding staff members just whisper in frustration, annoyed that our boy's defiance is increasing their workload. The executive leans in close, coldly, suggesting that if he hates the rules, he should just resign. Linton looks down, realizing these people are just corporate vultures who don't give a damn about quality. Suddenly, a hand catches his, stopping him before he can make a move he might regret. Lewis steps in, desperately, pleading with him to keep his cool and not act on impulse. He stares at her, the tension in the room thick enough to cut with a dull blade. Hess reminded of the crushing debt on his shoulders and the violent fate awaiting him. If as fired, he shoulders past the arrogant heir with a heavy bump, questioning if staying in this hellhole is even safe. Lu warns our boy to remember his place and avoid doing anything the company wouldn't approve of. Later, Lin Tian finds a quiet moment with Lu Yue, who thanks him for helping her survive this job. He humbly plays it down, claiming he only offered a few minor suggestions to her already great design. She remains uneasy, mentioning rumors that the company uses the jungle to eliminate anyone who stands in their way. Our boy looks away, quietly promising her that he will find a way to handle the situation himself. Feeling reassured, she offers a bright smile before heading back to the grind of the office. He watches her leave, knowing she is the only spark of light left in his bleak, detritus life. Suddenly, he calls out to her again, unable to let her walk into the coming storm unprepared. He warns her that the company and the entire world are about to undergo a terrifying transformation. She looks back at him dumbfounded, clearly shaken by the sheer weight of his ominous warning. Lin Tian clenches his fist, swearing he will do whatever it takes to keep her safe. She catches him off guard with a kiss, leaving our boy completely stunned and blushing. As she walks away, he remembers the world-shattering secret he accidentally stumbled upon at work. He realizes quitting isn't an option since debt collectors and the company would just hunt him down. Meanwhile, at the corporate headquarters, the big shots gather to discuss their shady project. A massive hologram warns the board that the jungle is expanding, yet the prize they want remains hidden. Lu complains that Linton is constantly messing with their data and definitely knows too much. A shadowy executive confirms that their lead developer has indeed uncovered the truth behind the jungle. They decide that anyone holding such dangerous knowledge needs to be permanently removed before he can act. The boss orders Lu to use his elite knights to finally take care of their little nuisance. The big boss gives the final order to wipe out our boy right in the middle of the jungle. Lu smirks with pure malice, thinking about how long he has waited to finally settle this personal score. Suddenly, The peaceful forest erupts into a chaotic battlefield as high-level skills tear through the ancient trees. Linton is left battered and bleeding, surrounded by the corpses of the elite knights he managed to slay. Leo mocks his struggle, revealing that they only found him because Lua forced him to show his hand. He sneers at the fallen architect, wondering if he ever anticipated being discarded like trash by the company. A twisted, blood-stained grin spreads across Lu's face as he prepares to enjoy the final moments of the execution. Sharp blades cut through the air and flesh alike as the reality of the situation turns into a nightmare. Our boy gasps in total shock, feeling the cold steel of a blade driven through him by Liu Ye. As his vision begins to fail, he can only wonder why the one person he trusted chose to kill him. The jungle wasn't just a discovery. It was a digital nightmare destined to consume the world 10 years ago. Humanity is forced to adapt, as this green hell swallows cities, leaving everyone with no choice but to enter. As the lead architect, Linton knew the truth. But now he's just a broken man bleeding in the dirt. He thought Head outsmarted the company by wiping out their goons, but he never saw the real threat coming. Lua coldly explains that his entire life from his parents' deaths to his debt was a corporate setup. She mocks his talent, revealing she was just the final insurance policy to ensure he stayed under their thumb. Our boy is completely dumbfounded, finally realizing that the woman he trusted most was his literal executioner. Lu steps in, satisfied that the job is done without him even needing to lift a finger this time. He wears a trash tear grin, savoring the sight of the genius architect finally being discarded like yesterday's garbage. They decide to leave him for the lurking monsters, letting the shadows finish what the company started. The traitors vanish through a portal, leaving our boy to be torn apart by his own monstrous creations. The beasts close in for the kill, unaware that their creator still has one final desperate trick left. Suddenly, a red system alert triggers, sensing his near-death state and initiating a hidden high-level emergency protocol. Linton stares at the digital grid, praying his gamble to activate the hidden system actually worked. His mangled hand begins to warp and sharpen, confirming that the transformation into a monster has finally begun. He wears a wicked grin, knowing he successfully tricked the company into thinking his armor was his only weapon. Years ago, researchers discovered ancient records of the Jungle Lord, a creature that once ruled this digital hell. This legendary beast was so terrifying that every race in the game lived in absolute fear of its power. The staff warned Lu that these masterclass spirits still lingered, posing a massive threat to their corporate world. Lu just scowls, determined to find and erase any potential glitch that could ruin his perfect empire. Lintian adjusts his glasses, already calculating how he'll report this massive discovery to the corporate shareholders. Our boy finally reveals his true trump card, the legendary Jungle Lord form he's been saving for himself. He feels a surge of power that finally matches the overwhelming strength the company has been desperately seeking. Suddenly, the system triggers a survival mission, warning him that the forest predators have sensed his presence. A spectral wolf lunges from the darkness, its eyes glowing with a hunger meant for easy prey. Facing the beast, Linton remains completely unfazed as he prepares to test his new monstrous capabilities. He wears a wicked grin, knowing his passive jungle instinct allows him to react to any malicious intent. Turns out these trash tier wolves hunt in packs, but they've clearly picked the wrong target today. Feeling confident in his superior skills, he decides it's time to unleash his first real attack. With a sudden burst of speed, he uses flash to close the distance and strike down his foe. Our boy feels his senses double as his new mobility allows him to zip through the dark forest. He realizes this skill combo is perfect when paired with his deep knowledge of the jungle's deadly terrain. He watches a trash tier wolf get snagged by a man-eater flower, knowing exactly how the trap operates. With a swift motion, he carves through the remaining pack members like they were nothing but paper. Standing over the carnage, he scoffs at how easy it is to wipe out these low-level pests. After hitting level 3, he admits he feels more at home here than in that fake human society. Suddenly, he realizes the system hasn't ended the mission, meaning something much worse is still lurking nearby. A massive level 6 spectral wolf lord emerges from the shadows, catching him completely off guard. He can't believe his luck, knowing the odds of encountering a lord monster here are practically zero. The sheer pressure of the level gap makes him sweat, realizing he might be in way over his head. Our boy barely manages to dodge the beast's initial lunge, but its speed is unlike anything he's faced. He quickly realizes his stamina is hitting rock bottom, and maintaining this form is becoming a death sentence. The Wolf Lord connects with a brutal strike, tearing through his organic armor and drawing blood instantly. Crashing into the dirt, He is completely dumbfounded by how a level 6 monster can move this fast. The beast doesn't give him a second to breathe, lunging forward with a roar that shakes the forest. He barely stays alive as the monster's claws rake across him, pushing him to his absolute breaking point. Facing certain death, he refuses to give up, screaming internally that he simply cannot die in this hellhole. His rage fuels him as he remembers the corporate snakes and the woman who manipulated his entire life. The cold face of Lua flashes through his mind, the one person he needs to find for revenge. He recalls when they worked together on the game structure, wondering how his trusted partner could betray him. Flashback to when our boy explained to Lu Yue that the jungle isn't just code, it is actually alive. Back in the present, he realizes the living jungle is unpredictable, just like her betrayal in this wolf. Gritting his teeth through the pain, he knows surviving this nightmare is his only path to getting even. His insectoid wings begin to vibrate violently as he prepares to bet everything on a desperate burst. He launches himself into the air, just as the flaming beast's claws shred the ground where he stood. Moving like a streak of light, he pushes his body past its limits to gain some much-needed distance. But the level 6 monster isn't done, activating its blood tracking skill to lock onto his scent. Crimson trails fill the air, showing that no matter how fast he runs, the predator is still tethered. He zips past man-eating plants and toxic fungi, realizing none of these trash tier hazards will stop the Lord. Suddenly, he spots a massive tree ahead and realizes this landmark might be his only ticket to survival. Linty pushes his wings to the limit, barely staying ahead of the flaming predator. Snapping at his heels, he slams into the massive trunk, his claws digging deep as he tries to find a momentary sanctuary. Gritting his teeth, our boy realizes that even in this form, his stamina is hitting rock bottom. From his high perch, he looks down to see the spectral wolf circling, refusing to let its prey go. Suddenly, a roar shakes the forest as a level 7 stalagmite bear emerges to defend its territory. He watches from above, hoping these two heavyweights are about to do the dirty work for him. If he could just stay hidden, this clash of titans might be the miracle he needs to survive. The two lords lock eyes, neither willing to back down from a fight for dominance in this jungle. As the monsters tear into each other, he realizes this is his golden ticket to slip away unnoticed. But just as he prepares to bolt, a system warning flashes, leaving him completely dumbfounded by a new threat. Lin Taion stares at the system screen, realizing he almost blew the mission by trying to bail too early. He decides to wait it out, betting that the level 7 solitary lord will make quick work of the wolf. The gamble pays off when the wolf drops dead, instantly triggering a mission completion notification and a point reward. With 1,000 points in his pocket, he checks the new skill panel, weighing the risks of losing his humanity. Before he can even pick a skill, the massive bear roars and launches a sudden bone-shattering assault on his position. Realizing he's completely outmatched, our boy knows he has to vanish before he becomes the bear's next snack. Sharp stone spikes erupt from the earth, forcing him to move faster than he ever thought possible to stay alive. He takes to the air, narrowly dodging the jagged stalagmites that threaten to skewer him like a piece of meat. The ground becomes a literal minefield of stone as the bear's power tears through the very environment around him. Ducking behind a massive tree, he watches in horror as the spikes pierce right through the thick timber. Our boy realizes this trash tier bear won't let up, and a single hit will definitely end his run. Desperate, he pulls up his system panel to find any skill that can turn this nightmare around. He knows poison is useless against that thick hide, and the beast's earth perception makes stealth a joke. To make matters worse, his wings are shredded, grounded by the very monster trying to skewer him. The environment continues to shatter as stone spikes tear through everything, leaving him with nowhere to hide. With his stamina hitting rock bottom, he realizes he has no choice but to activate the monster will. The system confirms the upgrade, and suddenly the fear in his eyes is replaced by a predator's hunger. He unleashes a blinding flurry of strikes, shredding the bear's defenses until the massive beast finally collapses. Standing over the carcass, he breathes a sigh of relief, now that his biggest problem is finally solved. However, as a strange blue energy surges through him, he realizes his transformation is far from over. A sharp purple limb slams into the dirt as our boy struggles to maintain control over his body. He clutches his head in pure agony, feeling his own mind being invaded by something ancient and hungry. The towering remnant of the jungle lord's consciousness looms over him, threatening to erase his very soul. Finally collapsing from exhaustion, he stares at a system prompt while trying to catch his ragged breath. High above the city, the Shenang technology skyscraper glows with the cold light of corporate greed. Inside, Lu Yua coldly reports that Lin Tian has been executed, clearing the way for her promotion. The holographic executives aren't interested in small talk, demanding to know if the Jungle Lord is truly gone. She explains that high-level masters leave behind a lingering will that remains even after their physical death. This power is a double-edged sword, as any successor risks being completely devoured by the monster's spirit. The board realizes that without overwhelming spiritual strength, this dominant power is just a fancy way to die. The corporate bigwigs emphasize that while the risk is insane, the potential payoff is even bigger. Luo Yue bows to the screen. Swearing shells secure the Jungle Lord's power for the company. Back in the thick of it, a massive shock wave rips through the forest floor. Our boy realizes with horror that the Jungle Lord's lingering consciousness is still clinging to life. Suddenly, a spectral claw of the dead Lord Mantis descends to crush his very existence. As a monster invades his mind, he knows losing this mental battle means becoming a mindless beast. Through the pain, he refuses to break. Fueled by a burning need to avenge his fallen comrades, the giant insectoid spirit screams alongside him, trying to overwrite his soul with its own primal rage. He plunges into the abyss of his own consciousness, fighting to stay afloat against the spectral tide. A pillar of raw energy erupts into the night sky. As the two spirits finally collide, the massive explosion finally settles, leaving the forest floor in a state of absolute ruin. As the dust clears, the silence of the woods returns, marking the end of that brutal mental struggle. Our boy finally catches his breath, relieved that he managed to purge the monster's lingering side effects. He realizes his new evolution is a miracle, keeping his human mind while gaining a powerful monster body. To reach his peak, he knows he must eventually track down the rare Helen Butterfly Elf program. These light-attributed creatures are legendary for their support skills, though they are notoriously difficult to find. Back at HQ, Lu dismisses the idea, calling the Butterfly race trash tier and a complete waste of time. He clashes with the lead developer, stubborn in his belief that such weak designs aren't a must-have. Suddenly, a corporate executive intervenes, reminding everyone that Lin Tian is the one who calls the shots. Annoyed, Lu shrugs it off and suggests letting another team handle the mission since he's clearly over it. Lin Tian realizes the Butterfly Elf's power is the key to making his monster will truly limitless and stable. He remembers the program was handed to Luo Fang's team after the corporate suits deemed low priority. Our boy is actually glad Lu was so arrogant since it means the objective is still up for grabs. However, he recalls that Luo Fang is a total meathead who used to make his life a living hell. To prepare for the inevitable clash, he checks the system to unlock some much-needed general survival skills. The mission board is loaded with tasks, ranging from simple daily chores to high-stakes jungle defense operations. He decides to grind out some easy points first, hoping to snag a few life-saving abilities before moving out. His first job involves helping the Mushroom Clan, though their idea of a thank-you gift is straight-up trash tier. Things get even weirder in the spider lair when a thirsty monster decides she wants a piece of him. After wrestling venomous snakes and getting pecked by baby birds, our boy really starts questioning his life choices. Our boy is absolutely exhausted, but hitting 700 points means he can finally unlock a much-needed survival skill. Suddenly, a new mission pops up, offering a massive point reward and a store feature for hunting human intruders. He realizes the system is testing his resolve, demanding he hunt down players to truly become the Jungle Lord. If he wants to survive this hellscape, he decides he must completely abandon his humanity and embrace the monster. Meanwhile, deep in the jagged valleys, a group of arrogant hunters begins their trek toward the elven territory. A heavy mace crushes a local monster as the invaders start clearing a path through the labyrinth entrance. Lu Fang laughs at how easy the hunt is, convinced the legendary butterfly elves are just a trash tier myth. The meathead is obsessed with reaching the Fern Tree realm. Lured by the promise of a massive corporate payday, the realm is a glowing, ethereal forest. But its beauty hides the fact that it is a high-level death trap. Based on forum leaks, the group expects an easy profit, completely unaware that the Jungle Lord is now hunting them. Out of nowhere, a jagged arrow pierces a hunter's skull, turning his easy payday into a sudden, bloody nightmare. The culprits are a pack of savage goblins, grinning as they prepare to rain down more death from above. The sheer number of monsters is overwhelming, leaving the remaining scouts completely dumbfounded and paralyzed by pure terror. With a unified roar, the green-skinned horde charges down the jagged cliffs to finish off the survivors. It is a total bloodbath as the trash-tier monsters swarm the fallen, stripping them of their gear and dignity. Suddenly, a massive wall of underworld fire erupts, turning the entire battlefield into a literal high-level crematorium. The goblins realize too late that they were never the predators, but merely fuel for a devastating spell. From the shadows, a heavy boot steps forward as the true masterminds finally reveal themselves to the world. Lu Feng and his elite squad smirk, proud of using those amateur hunters as nothing more than sacrificial bait. The berserker casually orders his team to wipe out the remaining filth to claim the shranked rewards for themselves. Chong lets a glowing arrow fly, signaling the final execution of the trapped monsters. His splinter arrow skill rains down, turning the remaining trash tier goblins into glowing pin cushions. Lu Feng and his squad stand tall, watching the fire consume everything they used as sacrificial bait. Suddenly, a massive stone spike erupts, proving that someone far more dangerous is watching this corporate mess. Our boy Lintan lurks in the shadows. Realizing his monster form makes him a permanent outcast, he decides to spare the weak as his pride won't let him hunt innocent low-level players. He remembers the second team's cruelty, slaughtering their own colleagues just to hoard the best resources. Back at headquarters, the staff tries to cover up the massacre as just another unfortunate workplace accident. The lead developer is furious, calling out Lu for hiring literal death row criminals for his expedition teams. Lu just gives a cold snort, clearly not caring who dies as long as the profits keep rolling. Lu dismissively tells the developer that coding in an office is nothing compared to the jungle's actual dangers. Watching from the canopy, our boy Lin Tian feels zero guilt about hunting these trash-tier humans who betrayed him. He notes that Luo Feng is a level 15 berserker, while his elite lackey have already reached level 13. Since he is only level 10, Lin Tian realizes he can't just charge in against these remorseless criminals. Luckily, he spent his points on a stealth function that allows him to stalk them from the shadows. With his system rewards ready, he decides that the upcoming slaughter is entirely in his hands now. A stray member of the Mushroom clan bounces through the woods, oblivious to the Heil players nearby. High above the tree inn, a spiritual bird circles the valley to act as the squad's eyes. Sarah checks the progress, but the scout admits the thick fog is making their aerial surveillance nearly useless. Luo Feng ruthlessly orders them to fly lower, even if it puts the pet in range of a monster. Luong coldly reminds the scout that his life depends entirely on his ability to find the path. Without warning, a sharp arrow whistles through the air, targeting the squad's only source of vision. The projectile pierces the spiritual bird's eye, causing a violent magical backlash for its master. The scout collapses while coughing up blood, but Lu Feng only cares if the mission is still on. Bleeding and desperate, the scout insists he saw the valley's layout just before his pet was struck down. Satisfied with the intel, the berserker orders his elite squad to charge straight into the misty valley. Our boy Linton watches from afar, feeling drained until a sudden system alert catches his attention. The group reaches a suspicious cave entrance, wondering if this is the shortcut they have been seeking. Their excitement turns to pure disgust as they encounter a massive, stinking pile of fresh monster waste. The scout is completely dumbfounded, swearing the entire path was spotless when he checked it earlier. Lu Fang's squad debates the trap, but the leader insists that the most disgusting path is the right one. He barks orders to clear the way, convinced that avoiding the filth is exactly what the enemy wants. High above, our boy watches the trash tier squad fall right in his obvious trap with a smug grin. Since they didn't take the bait, Lintian decides it's time to initiate Plan B with his fungal allies. These little mushroom guys might look harmless, but they're the ultimate utility tools for surviving the jungle. Using their unique growth skill, they tunnel through the earth to map out the valley for their new lord. To earn their loyalty, Lintian even endured a literal trash tier feast prepared by the mushroom king himself. Now he uses a purifying mushroom to ignore the stench while his stinky allies prepare a foul surprise. With everything in place, our boy prepares to turn the hunters into the hunted. With a dark smile, the excitement mushrooms release a pungent gas, driving the nearby monsters into a mindless, bloodthirsty frenzy below. The spectral wolves emerge from the shadows, their eyes glowing with a feral, bloodthirsty hunger. Luong's trashier squad finally makes it through the stench, but some are literally vomiting from the odor. One of the soldiers stops dead in his tracks, his face turning pale as he senses something wrong. He looks completely dumbfounded when he spots the flickering orange flames of a predator lurking in the brush. Before they can even draw their blades, the spectral wolves lunge forward to tear the invaders apart. Lu Feng tries to keep his cool, ordering his men to cut down these low-level pests immediately. But it's already too late as more monsters surround the valley, cutting off every possible escape route. The sheer number of beasts gathering in one spot makes the squad realize they've walked into a nightmare. Luo Fun grits his teeth, finally understanding that someone has been plotting against them from the shadows. With their formation shattered, the elite hunters turn into pathetic cowards, screaming for their lives as they retreat. The spectral wolves and spiders tear through the squad, leaving the elite hunters completely dumbfounded by the sudden onslaught. Suddenly, our boys' fungal allies release a thick cloud of pungent pink gas to disrupt the feeding frenzy. The overwhelming stench forces the monsters to retreat, proving that even the lowliest creatures can turn the tide. Coughing in the mist, the remaining soldiers catch their breath and foolishly believe they have actually been saved. Their relief vanishes instantly as a familiar, terrifying silhouette emerges from the haze, radiating a cold, murderous intent. The realization hits them like a truck when they recognize the man they once bullied is now a monster. These trash-tier cowards immediately start groveling, claiming they were just following orders from the higher-ups at the company. One soldier spots a momentary opening and decides to gamble everything on a desperate backstabbing strike. They lunge forward with everything they have, hoping to kill the jungle lord before he can even react. Linton just narrows his eyes, prepared to show them exactly what happens when a job becomes a death sentence. Linton moves like a blur, tearing through the trash-tier soldiers before they can even blink. He stands over the fallen, realizing this isn't just business anymore. It's a deeply personal grudge. The system confirms his progress, rewarding him with points for slaughtering the humans he once called peers. Looking at his reflection, our boy admits he no longer feels any connection to the human race. He checks his balance, frustrated that he's still 100 points short of finally unlocking flight. He praises the little mushroom for a job well done. Having successfully divided the enemy's ranks, leaving the corpses behind, he prepares for Plan C, aiming to drive away the tiger and devour the wolf. The jagged peaks of the dark stone forest loom ahead, marking the territory of a dangerous new foe. Inside the caves, panicked goblins rush to report that human intruders have breached their territory once again. The massive General Goblin sets on his throne. Furious, the humans are hunting the Helen Butterfly clan again. General Goblin is losing his mind, insisting that their king's grand plan can't be ruined by human trash. He rallies his green-skinned mob to slaughter every intruder before they reach the sacred eucalyptus tree. Meanwhile, Luong is looking for a scapegoat, pinning their recent failures on the injured scout's poor performance. The poor kid breaks down, swearing his maps were perfect and that the monsters are clearly playing them. Lufong doesn't care about excuses and prepares to execute the boy for being a trash-tier liability. Desperate to save her brother's life, Sarah begs the leader to show mercy just this one time. Luong only relents because of Sarah's status, though he warns the scout he'll lose his eyes next. As the team sets up camp, the men whisper about the dark price Sarah pays to protect her brother. They quickly shut their mouths when they realize the team's marksman is within earshot of their disgusting gossip. Chong sits in the shadows, seething with a silent rage that promises a bloody reckoning is coming. Lintan recalls corporate data, confirming that the marksman and the mage were actually a devoted couple. He overlooks the camp of outlaws. Knowing these trash-tier criminals have nowhere else to go, the jungle has become a lawless pit where only the most brutal and desperate can hope to survive. Our boy thinks it's pathetic that the archer would accept such humiliation just to stay alive. Chong coats his tips in poison, his mind swirling with the betrayal he's forced to endure. As the leader enjoys himself, the rest of the squad drinks and listens to the disgusting sounds. The soldiers laugh about the mag's figure, completely unaware that their mental defenses are being breached. The Mushroom Clan releases a hallucinogenic gas that starts to warp the archer's perception of reality. He begins to sweat as the purple haze forces him to relive his most painful memories. Seeing his woman in the arms of his tormentor finally pushes him over the edge. The Mushroom Clan works their magic, pumping out sounds and gas to turn the camp into a fever dream. Our boy watches from the shadows, knowing the psychedelic fog will force these guys to do the unthinkable. He spots the goblin army closing in. Realizing the stage is finally set for a total bloodbath, the General Goblin leads his green-skinned trash-tier squad forward. Completely unaware, they're just pawns in a bigger game. Lin Nian smiles, planning to let the actors slaughter each other before he swoops in to finish the job. Outside the tent, Chung struggles with his sanity, his mind poisoned by the mushrooms and his own resentment. A dark killing aura leaks out as he grips his bow, his subconscious screaming for bloody revenge. Suddenly, he snaps back to reality, drenched in sweat and wondering what the hell is wrong with him. Linton is impressed by the archer's high spiritual energy, noting how he actually resisted the toxicity. Inside the tent, the trash tier leader mocks his subordinate's weakness. While his woman defends her ex, Luong winces as his girl touches the nasty enchanted scar Linton left on his chest. She reminds him that he nearly died during that corporate suppression if not for her timely intervention. Our boy Linton was a beast. Hiding his true power while playing the part of a weakling, Lu Feng breathes a sigh of relief. Thinking the monster who haunted his nightmares is finally dead, he scoffs at Changyi's cowardice, figuring the archer fled because he couldn't handle the heat. High above, Linton watches the camp, satisfied that the goblin army is right on schedule. He locks his sights on the archer, knowing this operation hinges on picking him off first. Suddenly, the night air is shattered by the desperate screams of an incoming enemy attack. Luong bolts upright in bed, realizing his peaceful night just turned into a living nightmare. The goblin trash tier squad swarms the camp, and the real bloodbath finally begins in earnest. Luo Feng is dumbfounded that the camp's defense formations didn't alert them to the goblin trash tier invasion. Turns out, our boy Lintian's mushroom buddies were busy stealing the defense gems right under their noses. Lu Feng can't believe these supposedly stupid monsters had the brains to dismantle their high-tech security first before he can process the betrayal. The general goblin charges through the chaos like a freight train. The massive beast sneers at the humans, calling Luo Thong a pathetic hairless monkey before swinging his weapon. Their weapons collide in a shower of sparks as Luo Feng desperately tries to hold his ground. He starts to tremble, realizing this monster's raw power is far beyond anything he can handle alone. The General Goblin doesn't give him a second to breathe, winding up for a crushing finishing blow. Luong scrambles back, screaming for his archers to get in formation and save his sorry hide. A panicked soldier delivers the final blow to his morale, announcing that Changjia has officially abandoned them. Lu Feng is losing his mind, cursing the archer for deserting while the General Goblin closes the distance. Our boy Chang couldn't care less about the chaos. Figuring the camp's early destruction is someone else's problem, he looks back at the rising smoke, coldly wishing his former teammates would just burn to a crisp. Suddenly, he spots Linton's level 11 shadow lurking in the trees and realizes this hunt just got complicated, even with his level 13 stats and sharpness passive. Chang knows he can't afford to be sloppy here. A strange mist begins to swirl around him, making the veteran archer wonder if a monster is closing in. His eyes lock onto a target in the brush, convinced he's finally found the rat hiding in the dark. Without hesitation, he draws his bow and lets an explosive arrow fly to end this game once and for all. The projectile streaks through the air, aimed right at the heart of the mysterious figure standing in the clearing. But as the smoke clears, he realizes he fell for a trash tier trick when the target is just a decoy. Our boy Linton doesn't waste a second, lunging from the shadows with a lethal instantaneous strike. Their weapons collide with a screeching ring, but the archer is clearly struggling against this monstrous speed. Changyi's heart sinks as he realizes the decoy was just bait for this brutal sneak attack. Before he can even breathe, a heavy blow sends the veteran marksman tumbling backward into the dirt. He barely manages to dig his heels in, gritting his teeth while trying to regain his composure. Linton taunts him, claiming his assassin tier agility is far beyond anything a mere human can handle. He lands with predatory grace, looking every bit like the nightmare the developers tried to delete. Suddenly, he triggers his stealth skill, his form flickering with mana before vanishing into thin air. Left alone in the silent woods, Chang is dumbfounded and wonders how he'll survive this ghost. Desperate to see his killer's face, he enchants an arrow with light to burn away the darkness. Chang lets loose his light arrow, hoping the illumination will finally pin down his invisible predator. But our boy Lin Tian is just built different, casually snatching the glowing projectile right out of the air. He mocks the marksman, noting that even if his stealth is blown, Chang Jie is still trashed here compared to him. Suddenly, the archer's vision blurs as he notices a strange green haze beginning to choke the forest air. Turns out Lin Tian planted mist toxin mushrooms, which release a lethal gas whenever things start getting too heated. Chang collapses to his knees, realizing the light toxin is designed to explode inside his lungs during exercise. He considers using an antidote, but decides to play along, hoping to lure the monster into a false security. Linton admits he's impressed by the guy's mental fortitude, but reminds him that fairness is for the dead. With a whistle, he calls in his fungal reinforcements as a tiny mushroom clan warrior bounces into the fray. More of the little guys appear, proving that even the cutest forest dwellers can be cut from a savage cloth. Changjia finds himself surrounded by the fungal squad while our boy looms behind him like a literal reaper. The archer is completely dumbfounded, realizing too late that he's just another piece on Lin Tian's board. Before he can react, the Mushroom Clan unleashes a barrage of toxic projectiles that shred his remaining composure has quickly reduced to a pathetic mess of green slime. Gasping for air as the toxin takes hold, Linton gives his fungal buddies a thumbs up. Clearly satisfied with how this trash tier hunt is going, they prepare to end his miserable life, certain that the marksman has no cards left to play. Suddenly, a flurry of golden arrows cuts through the mist, proving the prey still has some bite left. Our boy effortlessly weaves through the incoming fire. Realizing the archer isn't ready to kick the bucket yet, Changjia forces himself up, using a weak healing skill to barely negate the corrosive effects of the slime. Drenched in filth and fueled by pure desperation, he screams that hell dragged the monster to hell with him. Lin Tian mocks the archer, noting that even with antidotes, his aim is still trash tier due to the toxins. Our boy decides the games are over, claiming these pathetic attacks won't work on him anymore. Changjia is dumbfounded to see Lin Tian's face right before a lethal strike ends his miserable life. With a cold gaze, he tells his fallen enemy to finally rest in peace. As the light fades, the system rewards him with a level up and more points, which he plans to use for new unlocks. Suddenly, he senses a strange vibration in the air that puts him back on high alert. A massive teleportation circle erupts from the ground, signaling that more trouble is warping in. He covers his face against the blinding light, preparing himself for whatever comes through the gate. Meanwhile, the human camp is turned into a literal Hell's Cape as flames consume everything in sight. Luo Fong loses his mind in the chaos, smashing through the environment like a cornered beast. The squad panics, reporting to their captain that their marksman has officially kicked the bucket. Luo Fong fumes, realizing some rat exploited the chaos to pick off his isolated team member. Feeling the heat, he barks at Sarah to fire up the teleportation ritual and get them out. Massive blue arrays ignite across the jagged terrain as the high-tier ritual magic begins to surge. The light intensifies, signaling the imminent departure of the remaining humans from this absolute disaster zone. Even the General Goblin is left standing there, completely dumbfounded by the humans' sudden vanishing act. Our boy watches the spectacle, questioning if that whole mess was just bait to lure him out. In a flash of mana, the elite squad is yanked through space, leaving the carnage behind. Luong is paralyzed with pure terror when he finally realizes what kind of monster is hunting him. Utterly drained, Linton hits the dirt while the system prompts him to check his latest rewards. Usually, a level 10 monster is built different, easily overpowering any human at the same rank. Humans only survive by playing dirty, using complex schemes and grouping up to take down superior beasts. But the game changes entirely when a monster starts using those same human tactics to hunt them back. Luong stands there completely dumbfounded, unable to comprehend how a monster could possess such high-level intelligence. Our boy leans in with a terrifying smirk, asking the coward if he truly forgot who he is. The squad loses their minds as they realize this monster is actually the man who slaughtered their comrades. Pure terror takes over as the soldiers start screaming that they don't want to die in this hellhole. While Luo Fong screams about levels, Linton calmly weighs his odds of winning without losing his mind. The leader tries to act tough, claiming Lintian is just a trash-tier monster relying on cheap tricks. Our boy just breaks out into a fit of manic laughter, finding their desperate bravado absolutely hilarious. Linton mocks their pathetic attempts, reminding them that even the top company teams couldn't take him down. The second team soldiers completely lose their cool, realizing they're just lambs led to the slaughter. Our boy just stares them down with utter contempt, mentally labeling the trashier squad as a bunch of losers. Luo Fong refuses to back down, unleashing his mountain-splitting skill in a desperate bid to crush the monster. Instead of dodging, Linton simply accesses his system interface to finalize his mastery over the flight skill. The ground shatters from the impact, leaving the terrified mercenaries, hoping that their leader actually landed a hit. The soldiers squint through the dust, desperately praying that the nightmare is finally over and the monster is dead. Suddenly, a streak of light pierces the sky as the squad realizes their target has taken to the air. With his wings fully unfurled, Linton masters the skies, leaving his grounded enemies completely helpless and dumbfounded. Linton hovers above, mocking the humans and welcoming them to his personal playground, the jungle. He descends like a predator, fully embracing his role as the bringer of their impending doom. The trash-tier mercenaries scramble, desperately, unleashing every spell and arrow in their arsenal to bring him down. Our boy just dances through the air, wondering if they really think such pathetic long-range attacks can touch him. Sarah steps up with a dazzling light array, earning a rare bit of respect for her tracking magic. Even with her tracking, Lin Tian's agility is on another level as he weaves through the beams effortlessly. Seeing his squad fail, Luong puts his back into a massive axe throw, hoping for a miracle. The strike actually grazes him, making Lin Tian realize that a level 15 warrior's raw power isn't a joke. Despite the close call, the squad can only watch in frustration as their target remains safely out of reach. Lin Tian flips them off, promising he'll definitely kill them the next time they cross paths. He rockets away into the moonlight, leaving the trash tier squad eating his dust. Lu Feng is absolutely livid, barking orders while Sarah collapses from the monad drain of her teleportation. Turns out their only tracker, Chang Jie, is now literally half the man he used to be. Sarah tries to calm her leader, reminding him that her tracking spell is still clinging to their target. High above, Linton notices the magical aura on his wings. Realizing Sarah's magic is still marking him, he ignores the trail for now, pushing deeper into the forest toward his ultimate destination. Our boy knows he must bypass the goblin guards and monster hordes to reach the sacred tree realm. The key isn't an item, but a hidden altar that requires massive power to unlock the path ahead. Linton is annoyed because his plan to let the trash tier squad and goblins annihilate each other failed. He watches the glowing eucalyptus tree, knowing the goblin guard's return will make reaching the altar a nightmare. Our boy realizes he can flip the script and use Sarah's tracking mark to lure his enemies instead. The dark forest remains silent as the weight of the failed ambush settles over the jagged landscape. Back at camp, the survivors are completely dumbfounded that a dead man could return as a Heil monster. Terrified, the soldiers beg to abandon the mission, admitting they are no match for Lin Tian's new power. Luong is haunted by the encounter, wondering if he should report this disaster to the big boss. He remembers Lia's cold philosophy that only the strong deserve to exist, making failure a death sentence. Realizing his life is on the line, he decides to keep his mouth shut and handle the mess himself. Sarah reminds Lu Feng that she already tagged their target with a tracking spell to prevent his escape. Luong grits his teeth, knowing the creator of this world understands every class and skill better than anyone. He realizes that if the big boss finds out they struggled against a level 12, they're basically trashed here. Looking at the glowing forest, he deduces our boy is actually hunting the rare butterflies at the altar. While Luong vows to end him, Linton just smirks, ready to turn the hunters into the hunted. The squad members scramble to set the final crystal nodes, desperate to lock down the area before he strikes. Sarah channels her mana into the formation, hoping a massive barrier will finally ground the flying monster. With the last node active, she unleashes her ritual magic to seal the perimeter around the ancient tree. A massive blue dome erupts over the eucalyptus tree realm, trapping everyone inside for the final showdown. Sarah feels her mana draining as the tracking mark on our boy starts to flicker and fade away. Luo Feng supports her, claiming their target is like a spent arrow with nowhere left to run. He stares at the massive barrier, confident the perimeter is tight enough to ensure there is no escape. Meanwhile, Linton hides in the shadows, frustrated that his guerrilla warfare hasn't revealed the altar's location yet. He has been using the Mushroom Clan to bait trash tier goblins into attacking the human camp to cause chaos. However, the squad is too well coordinated, easily swatting away the monsters once they've set their defensive formation. With mages healing and archers clearing the field, this elite team looks almost invincible in the dark jungle. Luong stands over the corpses, certain they'll clear the valley unless the general goblin actually shows his face. Even at level 13, our boy knows he can't face the whole team and relies on the trier's protection. Linton pressures the Mushroom Clan, knowing their connection to the earth is his only shot at finding the altar. Once the little guys confirm the location, our boy realizes it's finally time for the decisive battle to begin. Sarah doesn't waste a second, channeling her mana into a tracking spell to pinpoint the target's exact position. The squad stands over the trash tier goblin corpses as they finally lock eyes on their elusive prey. Luo Feng roars for his team to move out. Convinced that Linton has finally cornered himself, Hess absolutely obsessed with finishing the job this time, leading his elite soldiers deeper into the dark woods. Our boy takes to the skies, unfazed by the commotion because he knows this is the endgame he wanted. With a sinister grin, he prepares to flip the script and show these hunters who the real predator is. The Mushroom Clan releases their pheromones, stirring up a massive horde of monsters to drown the valley in chaos. the squad reaches the massive eucalyptus tree. Unaware they have just walked into a perfectly timed death trap, Luong commands his men to narrow the barrier, certain that this location will be Lin Tian's grave. Suddenly, the forest erupts as a wave of spectral wolves and undead horrors charge at the human invaders. Luong narrows his gaze, barking orders for his teams to split up and contain the incoming chaos. The elite soldiers are immediately swamped, forced into a desperate struggle against the jungle's most savage predators. Sarah and the others realize these beasts are berserk, likely driven mad by some hidden high-tier toxin. Linton watches the carnage with a cold smile, mocking them for underestimating a supposed level 12 monster. The ground shatters as a massive force descends, signaling the arrival of a threat they never anticipated. Lufang's heart sinks as the General Goblin emerges. Realizing our boy just played his ultimate trump card, driven by pure desperation, the squad leader charges the behemoth, hoping to reclaim control of this spiraling nightmare. Sarah tells the squad to stay back, confident that Luo Fong can handle the oversized goblin alone. She conjures a glowing projection, realizing our boy is hiding much closer than they ever imagined. Convinced Luo Fong is already a goner, Sarah charges forward to avenge him by killing Linton. Hidden beneath the roots of a massive tree, a high-tech entrance hums with ancient forbidden energy. Linton steps into the secret chamber. Realizing the eucalyptus tree was just a mask for the altar, he begins deciphering the glowing jungle letters. Thankful he spent time studying the world's most obscure scripts. His mushroom companion panics, warning him that the human hunters have already tracked him to the sanctuary. Sudden pillars of flame erupt around him as the squad attempts to trap him in a fiery cage. Our boy lands right in the middle of their magic circle. Mockingly welcoming his guest to the party, he calmly analyzes the dual-layer trap. Admitting that Sarah actually has some decent talent for a human, Sarah and her mages successfully trigger the gravity trap. Believing they have finally pinned our boy down, the double binding magic locks onto his location, cutting off any hope of flight or quick movement. Linton just smirks, reminding Sarah that he is no longer a weak professional, but a masterclass threat. Fed up with his trash talk, Sarah gathers every ounce of mana for a final desperate strike. She unleashes a massive flare blast, hoping the sheer heat will incinerate the jungle lord where he stands. Through the blinding light, our boy's grin remains wide as he welcomes the futile attempt to kill him. Meanwhile, Lufang finally crushes the General Goblin, reaping enough experience to hit level 16. He decides to hold off on his profession change, feeling his current raw power is already enough for revenge. Looking around at the carnage, he suddenly realizes Sarah is missing and demands to know her location. A wave of frustration hits him as he realizes his squad is falling apart while he was busy. Linton mocks the pathetic magic, claiming the current intensity is nowhere near enough to even scratch him. Standing tall amidst the flames, our boy demands a more intense challenge from his trash-tier former allies. Sarah realizes he is using the Tree Realm altar to absorb their spells, leaving her completely dumbfounded. He reveals his plan is far deeper than mere defense, as the magical formation begins to crack apart. With a sinister grin, he explains that he will drain every drop of their mana to fuel himself. The entire array shatters into a swirling vortex, turning their own power into a weapon for the protagonist. Sarah can't believe her eyes, wondering how a non-mage could possibly manipulate such high-level magical structures. The rest of the squad scrambles through the woods, sensing the tide has officially turned against them. Luo Fong watches in horror as the barrier fades. Realizing they have lost their only chance to trap him, the massive dome of energy finally dissipates, leaving the forest wide open for our boy's next move. Luong is absolutely seething, terrified that their target is about to slip through his fingers once again. Our boy remembers the stone slab he once managed, the very foundation of the world's professional roots. Back when he was human, he mastered every class. But those days of being a standard warrior are over. Even though his monster form limits his old skills, he still stands before the altar with total authority. Since he literally designed these systems, he just tweaks the code to drain the squad's magic formation dry. Their weapons clatter to the ground as the energy sustaining their formation simply vanishes into thin air. Sarah and her remaining teammates collapse, completely dumbfounded as their mana is sucked out of their bodies. Lyndon admits their stubbornness gave him a better idea than just letting them kill each other off. Instead of heading in alone, he decides to use these trash-tier hunters as keys to unlock the Tree Realm. Sarah desperately warns him that the company will hunt him down, but her threats fall on monstrous ears. The trash-tier hunters start graveling, desperately blaming Luo Fong and the company for their pathetic choices. Our boy just gives him a chilling smile, telling them to rest easy because their suffering is almost over. Meanwhile, Lu Fong is still charging through the brush, convinced that Sarah's magic will keep his target pinned. His men start getting nervous, wondering why the forest is so quiet and if the mages actually failed. The realization finally hits Luo Fong like a truck, and he refuses to believe his plan is falling apart. He arrives to find Lin Tin chilling on a throne, surrounded by the cold bodies of the mage squad. The survivors are absolutely dumbfounded, realizing they aren't dealing with some low-level mob, but a literal god-tier monster. Lin Tin just tells the remaining trash to relax, promising that everyone is going to get a share. Panic sets in instantly as the hunters realize they are just prey and try to bolt into the dark. But our boy is too fast, instantly closing the gap and carving through them like a hot knife. Linton blitzes the remaining trash tier hunters, making sure they know exactly who owns this forest now. The bald hunter can't even process the speed before his entire world turns into a blur of agony. Our boy pauses for a moment, genuinely curious about the absolute madness unfolding right in front of him. Turns out Luong is so tilted he starts butchering his own men just for trying to retreat. The brute claims there is no room for cowards in his squad, showing his true ruthless colors. Lin Tian just laughs and mocks him, thanking the man for saving him the trouble of cleaning up. Luong finally admits he underestimated the developer, while Lin Tian mockingly suggests he should just run away. But our boy isn't letting him leave, explaining that he has been waiting specifically to settle this score. He charges forward with insane speed, declaring that strength is the only law that matters in this jungle. Their weapons collide in a massive burst of power. As the final showdown with the bully finally begins, our boy realizes this bully is actually a high-tier player and decides to keep his distance. He vanishes into thin air, catching the brute off guard with a sudden strike from the shadows. Even with the surprise attack, he's annoyed to find that corporate-funded armor is actually holding up. Since brute force isn't cutting it, he knows he must rely on pure blinding speed to win. He digs his heel in, preparing to push his insectoid body to its absolute limit. A storm of slashes rains down as he tries to find a single opening in that heavy defense. Metal screams against Kitten, but the squad leader stands his ground like a mountain. The bully's eyes glow with murderous intent, seemingly unfazed by the relentless pressure. He just grins through the chaos, mockingly asking if this pathetic display is really all he has. Suddenly, the brute swings his massive blade, forcing our boy to zip back to avoid being cleaved. Linton is sent flying, realizing that the brute's raw power is even more terrifying than he first imagined. Luo Fong just stands there like a wall, mockingly asking if that weak strike was really his best effort. Suddenly, a tiny member of the Mushroom Clan pops up, looking absolutely livid at the arrogant squad leader. Before the brute can react, a whole swarm of the little guys surrounds him, leaving him completely dumbfounded. They detonate in a massive cloud of purple spores, engulfing the bully in a toxic and blinding haze. Watching the explosion from a distance, our boy wonders if that fungal surprise was enough to finally drop him. He doesn't wait to find out, diving back into the smoke with a lethal, high-speed slash to finish it. But the trash-tier villain just laughs, revealing an advanced purification gemstone that completely nullifies the toxic spores. Luong swings back, explaining that he's been on guard ever since he saw how easily Chung Jae died. Lin Tian grits his teeth in frustration, realizing his tactical play with the forest dwellers was a total bust. Luo Fong keeps swinging his heavy blade, mockingly asking if our boy is just going to keep running away. Even with his new monster powers, the brute calls him a cowardly clown who can only hide in shadows. Activating his weapon mastery, the squad leader readies his heavy chains to ensure there is absolutely no escape. Suddenly, the chains bind Linton, making him realize this entire exchange was a calculated strategy to trap him. He struggles against the heavy iron, cursing his luck as the trash-tier villain finally manages to pin him down. Despite being restrained, our boy finds a narrow opening and delivers a swift, desperate slash across the bully's chest. He slides back to gain some distance, breathing heavily while trying to calculate his next move against this tank. Luong just stares at the shallow cut on his torso, completely unfazed by what he considers pathetic damage. While Linton is proud, he finally broke the defense. The brute mocks him for such a tiny scratch. But the laughter stops when green veins start bulging as he realizes the blade was laced with lethal poison. Linton realizes the points from his recent kills finally unlocked a lethal neurotoxin skill to end this. Luo Fong feels his strength draining as the poison spreads. Realizing his situation is becoming dire. Desperate to survive, the brute activates a hidden system function to force a sudden profession change. Our boy is dumbfounded, never expecting that Luo would allow such a broken mechanic in the game. Luong sneers, explaining that corporate restrictions were tossed aside the moment Linton left the company. Sensing a massive threat, he lunges forward to stop the transformation before the trash tier leader can finish. A violent burst of red energy erupts as the system confirms a successful transfer to the Berserker class. The bully emerges completely transformed, feeling a surge of raw power that heals his poisoned body instantly. Linton realizes a Berserker is a pure killing machine and wonders if he should actually pull back. Suddenly, a massive wave of red energy forces him onto the defensive. As the real fight begins, Lu Fong mocks our boy, asking if he's actually planning to tuck tail and run like a coward. Linton realizes the path to the altar is blocked, leaving him no choice but to fight for real. The brute speed is insane, catching our boy off guard as he realizes the Berserker class is no joke. Luong swings his massive weapon with lethal intent, telling the former developer to just go to hell. Linton barely manages to evade the strike, feeling the wind from the heavy blade graze his organic armor. A blinding flash erupts as the trash tier leader unleashes a follow-up attack that shakes the very air. Our boy uses his own movement to reposition, frantically searching for where the monster-like man disappeared to. Suddenly, Luong appears directly overhead, leaving Lin Tin dumbfounded by the sheer speed of his aerial ambush. The Berserker slams his weapon down with a terrifying red energy blast that threatens to end everything. The ground shatters into a massive crater as the impact sends shock waves through the entire forest floor. Our boy struggles to hold back the brute, realizing the Berserker's raw power is simply overwhelming. Their weapons lock in a shower of sparks as the trash tier leader pushes Linton to his absolute limit. Linton is dumbfounded that a lethal chest wound doesn't even make the madman flinch. Realizing he's completely cornered, our boy decides the only way to survive is to embrace his inner monster. He lets go of his humanity, allowing the primal instinct of the jungle lord to take full control. Luong prepares for the kill, unaware that he's about to face something far beyond his league. Suddenly, a massive spectral presence looms over the battlefield, chilling the Berserker to his very core. With a single blinding strike, the brute is sent flying like a rag doll across the forest floor. Lu Fong struggles to his feet, coughing up blood while wondering what kind of nightmare he just unleashed. Standing before him is a true apex predator, a terrifying fusion of man and the legendary Lord Mantis. The impact of their collision shakes the entire forest as our boy unleashes a power that defies logic. Luong is left sweating and wondering just how many trump cards this supposed trash tier developer is hiding. Those glowing green eyes lock onto his soul, signaling that the hunt has officially reached its peak. Linton strikes with blinding speed, forcing the brute to block while his rage meter starts climbing rapidly. The air screams as scythes meet steel, and every desperate parry only fuels the Berserker's growing fury. Finally, his rage hits the limit, turning his vision red as he prepares a final suicidal counterattack. He leaps into the air, screaming for Linton to die while swinging his massive axe with everything left. The two monsters trade a flurry of blows, neither side willing to give an inch in this gritty death match. Their combined auras collide in a massive explosion of mana that tears the surrounding trees to shreds. Blood paints the bark as Luo Fong is sent crashing back, finally realizing he's outclassed by a true predator. Luong admits he's actually impressed by the sheer strength our boy is putting out right now. The brute's legs finally give way as he begins his long fall into the dirt. Lin Taiyan stands over his fallen foe, looking every bit the apex predator he was born to be. Static crackles through his vision as the jungle lord's overwhelming power starts to fracture his consciousness. Both combatants end up face down in the mud, completely spent after that high-octane clash of wills. Back at the Shinuang headquarters, the city lights mask the growing tension within the corporate offices. Lu is busy berating his staff because they still haven't received a single ping from the second team. Lua interrupts the lecture, telling him to stop bullying the intern while she delivers the latest report. Her expression stays cold as she reveals the grim reality of what they found regarding their missing leader. Lu is left dumbfounded, demanding to know exactly what kind of bad news could rattle her like this. Linton is hitting his limit, his body buckling under the sheer weight of the Jungle Lord's power. He realizes the monster's will is growing stronger and knows he must reach the tree realm to survive, dragging his broken body across the dirt. Our boy is just a few agonizing steps away from salvation. Just as he is about to fade, a system notification announces he has successfully cleared the hidden quest. Seeing a glimmer of hope, he feels a surge of relief knowing the reward store is finally open. He immediately starts scouring the digital menu for anything that can fix his fractured mind before he snaps. Turns out the purification potion he needs costs 500 points, but his current balance is utterly empty. Desperate, he remembers the exchange function and decides to trade in his battle trophies for some quick points. The system begins stripping the rare gear and gems right off Luong's unconscious body for the trade. With 1,200 points in the bag, he finally buys the potion. Realizing his bully was a gold mine, Lu and Lua march through the high-tech facility, discussing the latest chaos unfolding within the game. Lu is completely dumbfounded to hear that a player has actually managed to breach the restricted tree realm. Lua tracks a massive Mon-urge, questioning why their supposed elite leader hasn't reported this development. They arrive at the high-security containment zone, where the corporation hides its most volatile and ancient secrets. Inside a massive tank, a legendary stone slab pulses with an energy that could consume the entire world. Lu remains skeptical, wondering what his subordinate's sudden entry into the tree realm really means for their plans. The lead developer warns that player unions are starting to sniff out the truth behind the upcoming expansion. Turns out these slabs are the foundation of their tech, harvested from the jungle's dark and bloody history. Lua insists they need the missing pieces to fully control the jungle's inevitable transformation into their reality. Lu demands an update on the remaining slabs, knowing their corporate empire depends on finding them first. Luo Yue suspects one of the ancient slabs is hidden deep within the eucalyptus tree realm. She worries that with the day of Zhang approaching their trash tier pawn, Luo Fun might be in trouble. Lu decides to handle the situation personally, ordering her to report any outside news immediately. Meanwhile, a mysterious altar pulses with blue energy deep inside a hidden mountain cave. Our boy Linty finally hits level 15, successfully suppressing the monster's lingering will for now. He realizes the store's expensive potions only mask the symptoms. He needs a real purification ability to survive. Looking at the fallen Luo Fun, he curses the system for charging 500 points for a single bottle. To make the most of his hard-earned points, he starts digging through the store's hidden features and interface. He's relieved to find a handy storage space, though he only has 700 points left to spend. He spots a high-tier defense item, wishing he had it before facing Luong's brutal attacks. Our boy is absolutely fuming after seeing his insufficient balance. Realizing the system is basically robbing him blind, he stands there dumbfounded because all that trash-tier loot from the elites barely netted him 1,000 points. Suddenly, a new mission pops up, tasking the jungle lord with saving the Helen butterflies from some greedy intruders. He knows the corporation will eventually track his progress here, so he needs to move fast and stay ahead. The local mushroom clan chattered excitedly, ready to help their new boss maintain the order of the forest. Linton orders his fungal subordinates to scrub any evidence of the brutal battle before he makes his exit. With a cold smirk, he prepares to depart for the eucalyptus tree realm to claim those sweet bee rank skills. Deep within a hidden cavern, an ancient altar begins to hum with a mysterious and powerful blue energy. A sacred flame flickers as desperate prayers rise, calling out for a savior to protect their dying race. The Helen butterfly elves kneel before the altar, begging their legendary prophet to descend and save them from extinction. The Helen butterfly elves are losing hope, wondering if their devotion just isn't enough to trigger a miracle. Their princess has spent years in prayer. Yet, the legendary prophet remains a complete no-show during their crisis. Suddenly, a scout rushes in, screaming that the trash-tier goblins have finally sniffed out their hidden sanctuary. These green-skinned pests don't waste a second, pouncing from the shadows to corner the fleeing elves. Before he can escape, the goblins pin him down, relishing the chance to bully someone even weaker. The princess reminds them of a sacred covenant, but the goblins just laugh since they're outside protected territory. With no other choice, the elves double down on their prayers, begging for any savior to stop the slaughter. The lead goblin mocks their faith, calling them idiots for believing in some ancient dusty legend. Just as hope fades, the altar erupts in a blinding blue light, signaling that someone finally answered the call. Our boy Lintan finally arrives, though he looks absolutely drained from the journey and the constant system alerts. The trash-tier goblins charge, in cackling that the idea of a savior is nothing but a pathetic joke. They prepare to feast on the terrified elves, completely unaware that a storm is about to hit them. Suddenly, our boy Linton intercepts the lead pest. His speed, leaving the monster absolutely dumbfounded and broken. He becomes a whirlwind of kitten and steel, tearing through the goblin ranks with cold, calculated precision. With one final massive swing, he unleashes a shockwave that paints the forest floor with green blood. Standing amidst the carnage, Linton realizes he's actually made it to the fabled tree realm at last. The elves can hardly believe their eyes, weeping with joy because their legendary protector has finally returned. Linton just sigh, nursing a massive headache while wondering why everyone is suddenly treating him like a god. Deep within the village, some still refuse to believe. Convinced that hope is just a fairy tale, their elder scolds them for being reckless, reminding them that the woods are still crawling with hungry monsters. The girls explained they were hunting for medicine for Gigi, but found a savior at the altar instead. The grumpy old elder isn't buying it, insisting that our boy is definitely not some legendary hero. They fire back that the elder's trash tier healing failed while this new guy actually has the goods. Turns out they were right. As Gigi's condition finally stabilizes after being on the brink of death, the elves are dumbfounded by how effective the medicine is. Looking at Linton with pure awe, Linton internally cries over the 100 points he spent while trying to maintain his cool, edgy persona. Seeing the results, the elder finally caves and tells him he can stay until the girl fully recovers. Suddenly, he's the village idol getting swarmed by grateful elves who keep calling him their lord. Over a meal, Linton gets down to business, asking about the goblins occupying their ancestral lands. The princess explains the grim history of the invasion and the desperate pact that's barely kept them safe. Linton realizes these butterflies are purely auxiliary, making them the ultimate target for every trash-tier bully around. Sitting down for a meal, our boy plays it cool and asks what this whole savior business is about. The girls are completely dumbfounded, wondering why their legendary hero is suddenly acting like he has total amnesia. They have already decided he is a reincarnation from a century ago, conveniently filling in the blanks for him. He realizes these elves are incredibly simple-minded, meaning he won't even have to break a sweat lying to them. Linton puts on his best edgy face, claiming he only remembers his soul-deep duty to protect their kind. The elves get all emotional, recounting how they were once the most helpless, pathetic race in the entire jungle. Turns out, a mysterious prophet stepped in just as they were being crushed by the bigger, nastier clans. This ancient savior used high-tier magic to craft a secret realm before vanishing with a promise to return. While he thinks they are gullible, Linton wonders if their world was also swallowed by the jungle like Earth. Linton wonders why he hasn't shrunk. Discovering the realm's barrier usually forces all outsiders into tiny, manageable forms. Our boy starts fishing for tactical data, asking about the total strength and numbers of the local goblin infestation. The elves reveal the horde is massive, led by several generals and a level 20 king with a nasty attitude. Even their legendary level 25 champion was utterly humiliated by the king. Proving levels don't always mean a win. Linton just smirks to himself, realizing these supposedly elite monsters are actually trashier compared to his own stats. To prevent a total slaughter, the queen had to threaten a mutual suicide pact by sealing the entire realm forever. They managed to secure a temporary truce, but the greedy goblins are still slowly choking the life out of them. Our boy quickly deduces the king's real plan, realizing the monster is actually hunting the princess for her baptism. Turns out low-tier trash is capped at level 20 unless they use a baptism to break their bloodline limits. Since the queen's power is spent, the king is obsessed with the princess to trigger his own evolution. The elves are absolutely devastated, explaining that a goblin baptism is basically a lifelong contract of pure humiliation. Our boy isn't having any of that and slams the table, swearing hell never let the princess fall. He considers her his personal assistant and can't stand the thought of some trash-tier goblin claiming her. He realizes this whole scenario feels exactly like those trashy low-budget comics he used to read back home. Since the tree realm is a week away, he asks about a shortcut to reach the palace faster. The girls mention a teleportation array, but admit the village chief is way too suspicious to let him use it. Linton figures he needs to earn some serious street cred by curing one of their sick kin first. Suddenly, his system pings a warning that an enemy is closing in fast on their current position. A winged goblin general suddenly appears outside, looking for the man who's been messing with their plans. While the elves are dumbfounded by his prediction, our boy just smirks at the incoming low-level trash. Our boy smirks, telling the girls it's time to head out and slaughter some trash-tier invaders. The peaceful Helen Butterfly village is suddenly under siege with the night air thick with tension and dread. The elves remind the goblins of their ancient covenant, demanding to know why they're suddenly invading their home. The massive goblin general demands they hand over the intruder, suspecting a monster is hiding among the villagers. The elves are dumbfounded by the accusation, shouting that their new friend is a savior, not some monster. The village chief cuts through the noise, coldly, stating that there are no saviors, only outsiders who will leave. She stands firm, warning the green-skinned brutes that they aren't allowed to step any closer to her people. Losing his patience, the general reaches out to crush the old woman for her defiance and lack of cooperation. Before he can land a blow, Linton intervenes with a flash of steel, blocking the strike effortlessly. The impact creates a massive shockwave, proving that this intruder is definitely not cut from the same cloth. Linton steps out of the shadows, telling the brutes they don't need to look for him anymore. Our boy mocks the general, asking if he's already done after just a single kick. He sends the massive green beast flying, proving he's on a completely different level than these trash tier mobs. A system notification pops up and Linton realizes this big guy is worth a cool 1,000 points. Enraged, the general screams for him to die while launching a desperate, heavy-handed assault. Linton blocks effortlessly, noting that this guy's strength is far inferior to Luong's berserk mode. The goblin grows frustrated, wondering if defending is the only thing this puny outsider is good for. Our boy just smirks at how quickly the beast lost his temper while easily dodging the clumsy strikes. Deciding he's seen enough, he prepares to make this quick and end the pathetic display. With a single blinding slash, he cuts through the general's defense, leaving the monster completely dumbfounded. The general is completely shaken, realizing his massive frame doesn't mean squat against this monster. Our boy confidently declares he'll end this in 3 rounds while the butterfly elves cheer for their savior. Suddenly, a sharp pain spikes through his head, making him wonder if his condition is flaring up again. Seeing the opening, the goblin lunges forward, thinking he finally has a chance to crush the arrogant brat. Linton grits his teeth, feeling the lingering side effects of the monster will eating away at his focus. He realizes the potion only suppressed the mutation, and now he's on the verge of losing control again. The beast mocks him, demanding he keep fighting if he really wants to play the hero for these bugs. If he can just hold on, the butterfly RAC's purification might be his only shot at staying human. The general rains down a flurry of strikes, but Linton is busy fighting the demon inside himself. Finally reaching his limit, he lets out a feral roar as the monster mode takes over completely. Our boy unleashes a flurry of strikes, but his mind is a total mess right now. He feels his willpower fading and wonders why the butterfly race hasn't started the purification yet. The elf elder senses a terrifying dark aura and realizes their supposed savior is losing his mind. Furious that the elves aren't taking the initiative to help, Linton finally loses his grip on reality. The goblin general is completely dumbfounded, sweating bullets as he watches his opponent turn into a nightmare. A massive danger warning flashes as the jungle lord's killing intent peaks, threatening to slaughter everyone present. The ground shatters under the weight of his corrupted mana, sending shock waves through the entire battlefield. He dives back into the fray, his movements becoming more animalistic and violent with every passing second. Realizing he's cooked, the goblin decides that if he's going down, he's taking the elves with him. But our boy is far past reasoning, looking like a true monster as he prepares.